please consult with a qualified professional for any investment or financial advice.
That way I know for a fact that no matter what happens throughout the month, that money is going in there first. So we call that here at Virginia Credit Union, pay yourself first.
This is Pay That Bill, a podcast from your friends at Virginia Credit Union, here to help you pay your bills. My name's Sabrina, a financial educator here at the credit union, and I'm here with
Tori.
Hi, Tori.
Hi, my friend. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well. We're halfway through the week.
We are officially.
Yes. You got any good plans for this weekend?
You know where I'm going to be.
I figured.
You know where I'm
going
to be.
Let me guess. You're going to be at the Diamond with Nutsy and Natasha?
I sure am.
Hot dog.
I sure am. If there's a homestand with the Flying Squirrels, you will likely find me there. So I'm very excited about that. What do you got going on this weekend?
Well, I'm going to hop on the train and travel up to Philly. I'm going to go meet some friends. And then I have a work event that I'm going to be participating in all week. So I'm excited. It's going to be a little mini vacay.
Okay. First time in Philly?
Haven't been there in a really long time.
Okay.
So I will go get a cheesesteak.
As you should.
As I should. And check out the chicken and donuts place that you guys were telling me about.
Yes. So when we went, maybe like 2 years ago, because I'm a wandering spirit.
Yes.
And I love to go out and explore
Yes.
where I'm at. And they had me at donuts. And I walked in.
You can't go wrong with donuts.
I'm sorry, you get like chicken fingers and it comes with a donut.
Sounds perfect.
I'm sold. I'm in.
I
think I was there twice.
Okay.
We were there for a few days.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely gonna pop in there.
Yes, you should. But enjoy it. I hope you have such a good time.
Thank you. I'm excited. It's gonna be fun.
So I have to ask.
Yes.
What bill did you pay this week?
Oh goodness. So many bills. However, there was one bill that I did not have to pay.
Oh. Okay. You did not have to pay this bill?
I did not have to pay this bill, and it made me very, very happy. So as you know, right now I live in a condo, and Richmond, Virginia has been hotter than hot this summer.
Very hot and like daily 5 o'clock storms.
So hot. The storms are crazy. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a major storm, and my AC went out.
No.
And it was early in the morning too. And I thought, it feels kind of warm in here. Sure enough. And throughout the day, the house got up to a balmy 88 degrees. Luckily, I was able to call my landlord though, who's wonderful. She's wonderful. And I said, hey, is there any way you can call the HVAC people for me? She's like, yep, I'll get right on it. So it took them a few hours. They came out, but it was fixed. But I will tell you something. Boy, was I glad that I didn't have to pay the HVAC people.
I can imagine.
I just did not. I was so happy to be renting at that very moment. So, long story short, it got fixed. We're all cooled down, and hopefully it won't happen again. Hopefully
no longer living in an aquarium.
Exactly. It was just so hot and so uncomfortable.
Yeah, my parents had the same thing happen a couple of weeks ago. It happened over the weekend. So, if you have to call like the HVAC people like Sunday or Saturday, like they count that as an emergency. So my dad's like, we are not doing that.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they have like a dual unit. So they were able to keep like the main living areas cool. But, because they're homeowners, like that was an expense. You had to come and pay for them to do the diagnostics. And then I guess everyone in Richmond were having AC problems, so it took a couple days for them to come out and fix it. Yeah. So definitely something that came out of the blue for a lot of our community with the heat coming up. Yeah. So speaking of expenses, coming out of the blue, especially big ones, I really wanted to talk about the idea of having an emergency savings and how important that is for cases like maybe your HVAC went out or just any other thing that may have taken your budget off guard or taken you off guard by, out of nowhere. So what are your thoughts on emergency savings?
Well, I've heard from some of the best that 3 to 6 months of expenses is what we should have saved up in our savings account.
Yes, ideally.
So for me, with my savings, I am very particular about making sure that my accounts are automated, meaning every time I get paid, a certain percentage of my account goes into, a certain percentage of my paycheck goes into my savings account. That way I know for a fact that no matter what happens throughout the month, that money is going in there first. So we call that here at Virginia Credit Union,
love it.
Pay yourself first. So I always make sure every single pay period that I am paying myself first. And that way it just builds up and builds up and builds up. So I have several savings accounts just because my good friend Sabrina told me that it's always wise to have more than one. So savings is something that I take pretty seriously.
Yeah.
But I know from when we're out in the community, sometimes people say, well, my gosh, like, by the end of the month, I'm running out of money. I don't have hardly anything to set aside at the end of the month.
That's why we really emphasize like the pay yourself first principle, because we're not able to predict the future. Like we don't have a magic 8-ball. We don't have, the ability to see what's coming at us in 3 months or even like 3 minutes from now. And when it comes to like finances and life in general, it's not a matter of if something's going to happen to us. It's a matter of when that something's going to happen. And that when will always come with a cost.
Right.
Whether we had to miss work, that's lost wages. Whether it has to do with our vehicle, that's a repair. So when we are out and about in the community and we're talking about the importance of having money set aside and paying that future self, because again, we know that something eventually is going to happen to us, we get asked a lot about the importance of having that emergency fund set aside. So I do want to work through some of those questions that we get frequently. And again, for those who are listening, if you have a question, whether it's about emergency funds or whatever the question might be, send it to us. We want to talk about it.
Absolutely.
You can send it to PayThatBill at VACU.org. So our first question that we have from the community is, what counts as an emergency?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think everybody's definition of an emergency is different. For me, an emergency is, the HVAC system was a true emergency.
Yes,
it was
we're
just
not
too
staying
hot.
in 80 degrees.
Too hot. But for me, for me, an emergency would be, most people think of a medical emergency, or like you said, something with your car. Like if I had a flat tire or a broken windshield or something, that would affect my ability to get to work and make money.
Right.
So that would be something that I would want to take care of right away.
Right.
Right away.
So like you mentioned, like a lot of people assume that an emergency is like something that's life altering or, something that's going to really just put us back for a long time. But we can have like a moment of an emergency.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I don't have a moment of emergency today because on my way here, girl forgot to get gas. By the time I got here and that AC is blasting, I am 8 miles till E and probably a mile away from the gas station.
I got you. You can call me. I'll bring you some gas if you need it.
I would appreciate that if I run out. And I've had that happen before, like where, and I guess it's an ongoing habit of mine where I'm like, you need to get gas and not wait till the last minute. I've gone out and looked down and I'm like, oh no, I have to get gas. And there was one time I forgot my wallet.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, well, I don't have enough to get back home. And I had to figure out how to pay for gas somewhere. So luckily at that time I had enough like change kind of set aside just before I got an easy pass. But that money was set aside, and I do that now as an emergency in case I forget my wallet, I can get gas and whatnot. So it just really depends on what you define as an emergency. So the next question is, I've saved up a bit of an emergency fund, but how do I know when to use it?
That's a good question. How do I know when to use it? Well, I feel like as long as you have a plan for paying it back, like we said, only you can decide what is an emergency and what is not an emergency. I think if you're going to spend that money, you need to have a serious plan to get that money replenished in your account.
And the other thing about it is a lot of times when we take the initiative and we build up an emergency fund and we're proud of ourselves that we got that emergency fund, and then an emergency happens. And then we kind of like duel between like, do I use it? Do I not use it? I think the biggest thing is just knowing that that's what you save that money for.
Right.
And giving yourself grace.
Right.
Using the
That's
money.
a good point.
And just having a plan to put it back. So you know that that is what you did that for.
Right.
And again, you can define what level or what type of emergency that initiates that for you to spend it.
Yeah.
So I think giving yourself grace is a big part of that.
Yeah. Oh, did I tell you that I took your advice and I ended up opening up that high yield savings account that you were telling me? I did.
I love it.
You know, we have awesome savings certificates and things like that here at the credit union. But I told you I'm looking for a new house, right? So I wanted to make sure I had some savings available that was kind of a little bit more liquid.
Right.
Because if I had something, you know, I have my regular savings account, then I have my high yield, and then, you know, savings certificates, you're kind of held to a term. So I wanted to make sure that this money was more liquid in case I needed something for, you know, partial down payment or my earnest money or whatever. So, but I checked my balance the other day and I was excited to see how much money I was earning on that.
Isn't compound interest magical?
Oh man, I was tickled.
And that's important too. Like when you are thinking through like where to keep my emergency savings or when to use my emergency savings, we want to make sure that it's accessible. Like I think high yield savings accounts are wonderful, especially if, you know, you've made an investment into your future self, whether it's you're saving for that big purchase or you are just ready to make sure that if something happens that you've got that money set aside. And we had mentioned like the goal is having 3 to 6 months.
Right.
Well, you don't want to put that 3 to 6 months worth of money like in a regular account where you're not making the most of it.
Exactly.
So being able to put it in a high yield savings, you're making the most of your interest and you have access to it for when something happens, I think is wonderful.
It's a win-win.
So my next question would be, how much should I be saving?
Oh, well, again, I think that is a question that varies between people. If you know that you have something that you want to save up for, you might really go gangbusters and start putting away some real money.
Right.
But again, I know that some people by the end of the month, they are running out of funds. So that's where that pay yourself first really comes into play.
So why do you think that is? Like we talked about the importance of having a savings account, but like, why do we run out of money before we're able?
I just think things are getting so expensive these days, you know, just things like housing, gas, food, all of these things that are necessities that we must have in order to survive. The prices are climbing, unfortunately.
They are. And it really does make saving and settings. Everyone knows that we should be saving for an emergency, but I think it's like the how do we do that and how much we should be doing can be intimidating because we do have to think about a roof over our head, transportation to get to work, food on the table. And I know one of the concepts that we all teach, no matter we're talking to little ones at school or the grown-ups out in the community, is that 50-30-20 rule.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on that 50-30-20?
I
you want to share what that is?
Well, I think, well, the 50-30-20 rule is a really great tool for budgeting. So we tell people 50% of your paycheck should go toward things that are needs. 30% should go towards things that are wants, are fun things like maybe a vacation or going to a concert or something like that.
Or baseball.
Or baseball. And 20% should be going towards savings or paying down our bills, credit card bills.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a really good structure to follow. And, you know, even if you can't make it 20% that month, 10% is better than 0%.
Yes, absolutely.
So the 50-30-20 rule is just a simple way to kind of explain how to section that money for savings and spending.
And no matter what your income is, it can live and breathe with, you know, if you're making more money later on down the road, you still know like 50% would go towards the needs and that 20% should be going down towards your savings. And I do have a confession to make.
Tell me.
There has been a time believe it or not, where I did not have enough money saved up for an emergency.
Uh-oh.
So, we're not perfect. We've all learned through mistakes or shortcomings or pitfalls.
And some months are better than others.
And I think that's also why I think, we love what we do, because we can take what we've learned personally and share it with the community so that they can be more informed and make better and smarter decisions than what maybe we have in the moment. So years ago when we were planning our wedding, as many young women do, they focus on that day and the events of that day.
Yes.
And weddings are not cheap.
No,
They're
absolutely not.
Quite expensive. And my priority at that time was like, we got to pay the caterer, we got to pay the venue, I have to have that dress. So the money that I set aside, and whether it's for an emergency or what, that back then I just kind of had like a general savings. I was focused on wedding mode. And one night I was driving home and I hit a deer on 295 and it did some damage to my car. Secretly, I was hoping they would total it and I would just like go about my day.
But you were okay, right?
I was okay.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay.
But, I had to pay that insurance deductible, which I had money at that time to pay for. And I was set. So I'm like, pay the insurance deductible. They'll fix the car. You have 30 days of a rental. But it took 90 days to fix my vehicle instead of the 30.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to pay those extra 2 months out of pocket. And I did not have enough money saved up to take care of it.
Did you have to put it on your credit card?
I did.
Oh.
I had to put it on my credit card because I did not make emergencies a priority back then. You live and you learn.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, you really need to have separate savings accounts and really focus on that unexpected event that can happen.
Yes.
So we mentioned that savings and emergencies go hand in hand. But I want to dive just a little deeper into the relationship and kind of see where we end up, if that's okay
sounds
with
good.
you. So I shared about my story of how I did not have enough money saved up for my deer incident. And fun fact, I hit another deer 2 years later.
Oh my gosh.
We don't have that car anymore.
They like you.
They do, unfortunately. So a lot of millennials, and I'm a millennial, we find that they're living paycheck to paycheck, specifically those who are earning more than $100,000 or a six-figure income, which is incredible.
It is mind-boggling, really.
So I'd love just to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, as a Gen Xer, $100,000 to me is like an unbelievable salary. But in this day and age, I feel like we said earlier, prices are rising, especially cost of living, apartments, food, gas, all of these things. And I also think that maybe some of the younger people are experiencing that old like keeping up with the Joneses thing, where they want the newest car after they get their first big job. They want to get a cool apartment by themselves. They want to, go on trips and do all these special things. And I think maybe it's in their best interest to sit down and make a budget or something first. And I think maybe that might be what they're missing, is that budgeting, that 50-30-20 piece. But we do know that being in debt, having credit card debt, not being able to pay our bills creates a lot of stress and anxiety.
It does.
And I hate to see that for younger people especially.
It does. And social media makes it very easy to play that keeping up with the Joneses thing. And I've bought a lot of things myself that I saw on social media. So had I not seen this, I would have never known it existed.
Yeah.
So in a world where we are easily being influenced and pitched things, to buy all the time, and yesterday we were teaching a group, Chris and I, and he made a fabulous point. And he's like, when you're on social media, you always see an ad to buy something. We're like, yeah. And he's like, a lot of times people might buy it. I'm like, yeah. He's like, have you ever seen an ad telling you to save your money?
No.
And then I'm like,
no.
huh.
Yeah.
well, initially I was like,
Well, here's your ad, everyone. Please start saving some money. This is very important.
I did tell him, I'm like, well, if you follow VACU on Instagram, you will get pitched that we want you to save your money.
Absolutely.
But he's right. Like, you don't see anything influencing us to save or to think about
That's a good point.
an emergency expense. So when we are in that world where, you know, we're creating stress around ourselves because we're trying to keep up with the things that we're being influenced to buy. We're trying to make sure that we have food on the table and a roof over our head.
Right.
But the back thought of, what if my car breaks down, or what if I get sick and have to miss work? What do I do if I can't pay for it?
Right. And also they might be thinking, oh, that's never going to happen to me. But we all know life happens.
Life really does happen, and you know, we don't want to see anything bad happen to anybody, but we just have to be mindful that something is going to inevitably take our budget by surprise.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's large or small or somewhere in between.
Yep.
So one of the things, you know, we mentioned having that high earners, or that new standard of like a six-figure income, specifically around millennials, and I think it's starting to spread across like the lower generations. What are your thoughts of reducing that financial stress and giving yourself the ability to earn more money to maybe put towards that savings through side hustles?
I was going to say, like a side hustle, you mean? Well, I think side hustles are great. I think it's a good way to explore your creativity and things that you're passionate about. So back in the day when I was a classroom teacher, I was a classroom teacher for many, many years. Shout out to all my educators out there. We had this website called TPT, Teachers Pay Teachers. And each teacher we had our own like little storefront, and we would create digital resources and upload them, and we would sell them to one another at a very discounted price just to make a little bit of, extra money. Because, teachers make so much money, don't they? Most teachers have a side hustle, unfortunately. So that side hustle money really does come in handy, especially for those kind of emergency, expenses.
Absolutely. And there's a lot to keep in mind when we're thinking about, starting a side hustle and maybe being successful at it. In fact, Cherry really dug into the topic of side hustles with our friend and social media star, Tiffany Aliche.
I love Tiffany. She's so amazing.
Also known as the Budgetnista.
Yes, the Budgetnista.
So I really want to let them dig into that topic and send it over to them, because I know they have some wonderful things to share with our friends at home.
Yes, awesome. Take it away, ladies.
Hey there, it is Cherry Dale, and I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, the Budgetnista herself, Tiffany Aliche.
Thank you for having me, Cherry. I'm excited to be here.
When it comes to a certain point where you feel like you're drowning, or that you need to do more to help yourself financially, there's two choices, right? You either make more money or you spend less money. If you're thinking about making more money, side hustles come to many people's mind, especially now because there's so many different things that you can do outside of a 9-to-5 job to make that extra income. From your experience, how would you describe a side hustle, passive income? And as people are exploring that, what are some things that they should be keeping in mind with that income?
So a side hustle is not meant to replace your job, right? And it's also not meant to be like a business, right? So just know that like when you're thinking about a side hustle, it is meant to be as light as a lift as possible with the best financial return. It's different. If you're like, oh, Tiffany, I want to start a business, great. That's separate from this.
That's different.
Yes. This is, I just need to make some extra money. So as a result of that, because sometimes people give small business energy to side hustle and then they're exhausted. I'm like, no. This is not, we're not going to college for side hustles.
Right.
This is just,
something to earn a little bit extra, maybe in a season in your life that you need. Yes.
So two things that I like to think about when I was creating side hustles for myself. I said, well, side hustle, rule number one, is it something that I currently have experience in? Because I don't want to learn a new skill.
Right.
So that's why I used to babysit and tutor, because I'm like, I'm with babies all day long anyway. No new skill. I could do this with my eyes closed. And so is it something that you either currently doing at your job, you've done before, you have experience in, so you don't have to learn a new skill? Maybe hone that skill, but not a brand new skill. And then number 2, one of my rules is it something that I have a certification or education in that will allow me to say, this is why you actually have to pay me more?
Oh, that's
Because
great.
I realized that when I was tutoring, so I'd be looking for tutoring jobs, and they were like, oh, non-teacher, $20 an hour, teacher, $30. I'm like, oh, because I have my teaching certificate. Okay.
Right.
And so I was like, so it doesn't always work out that way, but it's something that I would be looking for. So if I'm going to be here anyway, why not make an extra $10, $15 an hour? So I'll give you an example of a side hustle that a friend of mine is doing right now. He's doing great. So ever since I've known him, he's been very well dressed. I mean, everybody knows, oh my gosh, like he always dresses so great. And he was like, oh, I need to make a little extra money on the side. I'm saving up for my daughter's college fund. And so he started thrifting because he has such a good eye, because people would stop him in the street and say, oh, I love it. Where'd you get this? He was already a thrifter for himself. So something he didn't have to learn. Already very stylish. And then he found places where he lives where they were like, oh, we have whatever outdoor marketplace or whatever, and you can have a table. And so sometimes he makes upwards of $1,500 to $3,000 a weekend because he buys something for $3 or $4 that looks really cute and then sells it for more. So he didn't have to learn a new skill set. He was already stylish and he was already thrifting.
Oh, that's
and so that was
great.
one of the things that, he was able to do. Like I said, for me, it was tutoring and babysitting. I know folks who do handyman things on the side because they're like, I grew up helping my dad, build houses. And so I'm actually pretty handy and I can fix things. So you just be surprised, asking yourself, what skill set do I already have? And ideally, do I have some sort of certificate or degree in it so I can actually demand more?
Very good. So what are some common mistakes or oversights to be on the lookout for when you have a side hustle or passive income?
Scams. Oh my goodness. I think I was like a scam magnet when I was in my 20s. I remember, and I don't know if the credit union had this issue, but do you remember when people were giving fake what were they called? Not checks, money order, money market. No, but basically a check that's that's more I guess it's a cashier's check. I don't know. But so anyway, I used to look for tutoring jobs on Craigslist, which probably is not a good idea. So I remember that this is before that this scam was well known. And I found a job. It sounded great. The guy's name was John or something. He's like, oh, I have my daughter, I live in a different country, but she lives in America. Would really love for you to tutor her. I said, okay, great. He said, I'm going to send you the money up front.
Oh,
And I
yes,
was like,
I know.
okay. Remember,
They
so
want you
this
to
was a big
cash it, and then
Yes.
it's not. Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, oh, okay, that seems odd, but I'm 22, so I don't know, So he sent me the thing up front. And I remember at the time, it was so new, that scam, I actually brought it to the bank. And the banker said, actually, this is, because I don't know how they were doing it, but it actually looked legitimate temporarily.
Yes. Yeah.
And so John was like, okay, cash that, whatever money check, whatever it was, I can't remember what it was called. And then I actually gave you too much. Can you return? So let's just say the job was $500. He gave me $1,000 check and wanted me to return $500 to him. And I just remember thinking, spidey senses go up. And I said, that seems weird. Why didn't you just give me a $500 check? And I just remember being like, so I didn't deposit it because I just was like, that just seems weird. I told him, I said, honestly, just send me a $500 check. I don't feel comfortable cashing it and then sending it back,
Yeah.
And he was just like, oh, do you want to jump on a call? I can convince you. So he told me his name was John, and he lived in Taiwan, which is funny because John from Taiwan. And and I said, okay. So I remember he called and I said, hello. And right away I recognized his accent because I'm Nigerian.
Okay.
And at first I thought it was one of my uncles calling me. I was like, oh, hey, Uncle Tony. And he said, no, this is John. I'm like, John? And he said, yeah, John from Taiwan. I was like, literally my head was like, no, this is my Uncle Tony because I know this accent. And I was like, well, are you from Nigeria? And he said, And I think he realized, I said, well, I'm Nigerian and I'm pretty sure you're not. And now I'm not saying you don't live in Taiwan, but that's not what you said. And I think he realized then,
Yeah.
like I've been found out,
been
and he hung
caught.
up quickly. And then, so after that, obviously I realized these kind of like scams were afoot. And then it was like, it took months and months later that I saw a sign then, probably 6 months later at the bank that says, if you have a money order, I think that's what it was. It was a money order.
Okay.
If you have a money order from someone you don't know, because I guess the bank caught on that people were doing this,
Yeah.
to be very careful. And I thought, wow, that's terrible. So that's what I would caution against. That if you're going to be side hustling, one, not to overwork yourself and overwhelm yourself. Two, look out for scams. People paying in ways that seem weird.
Yes.
So if it doesn't seem like it makes sense, like it probably doesn't. It should be very direct and easy. And also too, like the side hustle shouldn't ideally overwhelm you. There are things like, I know people who rent out their garage, or they live next to maybe like a train station and they rent out their driveway for parking. So it doesn't have to be this big elaborate thing. It could just be easy breezy.
Right. Oh, such good advice. Thank you, Tiffany.
Pay That Bill is a podcast designed to entertain and, more importantly, educate. The show is produced by Virginia Credit Union and is developed alongside our award-winning financial education team. We have a library full of free resources available online that can help you on your journey to financial success. If you want to learn more about what we talked about today, check out the links we have in the description of this episode. The information provided in Pay That Bill is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. While we aim to share helpful insights and general strategies, every listener's financial situation is unique. Please consult with a qualified professional for any investment or financial advice. The host and guests of this podcast are not responsible for any outcomes resulting from actions taken based on the content discussed.